Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm David Zhang. Here is a preview of some of today's top stories. Israel's Prime Minister visits California ahead of the United Nations meeting in New York. He meets with Elon Musk as protesters rally in the Bay Area. A teen runs over a cyclist in Las Vegas. Police are calling this an intentional hit and run, as the victim's family criticized these senseless crimes. Cruise showcases their new wheelchair-accessible self-driving car. These autonomous vehicles are a first of its kind in the world. The Israeli Prime Minister stopped by California to meet with Elon Musk. Protesters there claim Musk fueled anti-Semitism on his ex-social media platform. NTD's Eileen Ang has the latest.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu left California and landed in New York on Tuesday, ahead of the United Nations meeting and meetings with other world leaders. His arrival comes after talks with Elon Musk at his Tesla factory in Fremont on Monday to discuss AI technology and hate speech on social media. During the meeting, a small group of Israeli democracy protesters rallied outside the Tesla factory and in downtown San Francisco.
I came out because I love Israel. I've spent much time there, and I want it to be a democratic country, and I fear that with what Netanyahu is trying to do, that it is going to lapse into non-democracy.
I think it's important to send a loud, clear message that he's not welcome here. I honestly think the only place he should be welcome is jail.
The protest was organized by grassroots group Unacceptable, whose mission, according to its website, is to preserve the democratic identity of Israel as the home of all Jewish people.
So today we were actually welcoming Prime Minister Netanyahu, who is an indicted Prime Minister, and we are really worried about the democracy in Israel. So today we are actually running after Bibi Netanyahu to make sure that the Silicon Valley doesn't think that Israel is right now in a business as usual situation. It's actually on a dire situation, an existential crisis from within, where the government, which is a legitimate government, is taking actions to turn it into a dictatorship.
Civil rights groups accuse Musk of amplifying anti-Jewish hatred on his ex-social media platform, formerly known as Twitter. The Israeli Prime Minister urged the tech entrepreneur to strike a balance between protecting free expression and fighting hate speech at a meeting on Monday, after weeks of controversy over anti-Semitic content on Musk's social media platform. However, Musk declined to publicly comment on the issue during their meeting. Meanwhile, Netanyahu's government launched a judicial overhaul in January that has triggered unprecedented nationwide protests in Israel. Netanyahu and his coalition are trying to limit some of the Israeli Supreme Court's powers, arguing it is necessary to prevent political overreach by unelected judges.
As you probably know, Israel is called Startup Nation, and in the last 8 months, the Startup Nation is dying because of the instability in Israel that is driven by the judicial overhaul.
Opponents say the changes would encourage corruption and abuses of power by removing effective oversight.
A 17-year-old did a hit and run, killing a cyclist in Las Vegas. After video of the incident circulated online, police determined it was intentional. The cyclist was a retired California police chief and remembered for his big heart and love for coffee. NTD's David Lamb reports. Just a warning, the following footage and audio may be disturbing.
Ready? Yeah.
Former California Police Chief Andreas Probst was killed August 14th in Las Vegas after a hit and run. Authorities say the attack was intentional and seek to prosecute one of the juvenile perpetrators as an adult. Circulating footage appears to show the moment when the driver runs into 64-year-old Probst, who was riding a bicycle. NTD clipped out the moment of impact, but after hitting the rear bike wheel and Probst, the perpetrators left the scene. Probst was a retired police chief from Bell, California, going for his morning bike ride. Probst's wife, Crystal Probst, told Fox News Digital that it's not just about one victim. We as a nation are victims. We are victims of senseless crimes. We all need to show up and show our outrage in the courtrooms. She said her husband's murder is an example of the anarchy that prevails in many U.S. cities. Las Vegas police said they were able to locate the vehicle and arrest the driver, a 17-year-old male. Clark County District Attorney said, "I am confident that justice will be served in this matter once the investigation is complete and the appropriate charges have been filed." Prosecutors are still looking for the second person, apparently a teenage boy, who was in the car filming the incident. Anyone with information can contact the Homicide Unit at 702-828-3521 or online. David Lamb, NTD News.
The LAPD is searching for a man who attacked an elderly employee during a brazen robbery at a Chinatown shop. NTD's Christina Corona has more on the story from Los Angeles. Just a warning, the following footage may be disturbing.
We're here at Angie's Boutique, where an employee was brutally beaten Thursday during a violent robbery that was all caught on video. We got to speak with John, the owner of Angie's Boutique, who tells us about the incident.
So a robber came in here, and one of our associates was here working that day. He came in, he forced his way through the door, came in, stole some items, hit her in the face, put her in the hospital, and now we're just praying for a speedy recovery.
But John tells us the robber already had an eye on what he was going to take visiting the store the day before.
Yeah, he's targeting 2 items. He came the day previous, looked at the same 2 items, came back the day after. Just unfortunate that I wasn't here that day, and he took those 2 items. It was 2 art toys, collectible art toys that were worth $5,000. Those 2 specific things that he asked for the day previous, he came back the next day and took those exact 2 items. So.
Surveillance footage shows the masked suspect forcing his way into the store, where the 60-year-old shop employee immediately tried to fight him off. And it all happened in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, bless her heart. She tried to stop him, and unfortunately he hit her. You know, she's an older woman. It's just kind of a shame to see anybody do that kind of action. It was a matter of maybe a minute or 2, no longer than that. It was quick. It was in and out.
The victim had a concussion, a fracture between her eyes, and 20 stitches. A GoFundMe page has been set up for her by her employer to help pay for medical expenses. And John's final thoughts on why robberies are happening so frequently.
The only thing I could say is just it's the DA, the mayor, the governor. They're so soft. They're not doing anything for us. This is going to continue to happen. So it's unfortunate that, it happened to us. It's going to keep happening.
The store owner is offering a $5,000 reward to anyone with information on the suspect. He hopes the video will help police identify and capture him before he strikes again. Christina Corona, NTD News, Los Angeles.
A wheelchair-accessible self-driving car was showcased in San Francisco by Cruise. The company says it's the first of its kind in the world, and they hope to have it on the road, picking up riders next year. NTD's Jason Blair has more.
The world's first autonomous wheelchair-accessible vehicle was unveiled in San Francisco by Cruise late last week. It was developed while working with members from the disability community in order to make it accessible to a wide range of disabilities. They also made it able to accommodate as many different wheelchair users as possible, which they say has never been done before.
1 in 4 people in America identify as having a disability. So much of the built environment in the world is designed by people who have not thought about accessibility.
The company expects to have it in operation next year with a pilot program. The vehicle, called Wave, is the result of over 3 years of collaboration between Cruise, GM, Braun Ability, and Q-Straint. Cruise says they hope that widespread access to AVs like the Wave can help millions of Americans with disabilities enter the workforce. Reporting in San Francisco, Jason Blair, NTD News.
As various phishing emails jam our inboxes, company data getting compromised almost on a daily basis. Cybersecurity has never been more important than it is now. I caught up with the cybersecurity expert Kyle Lai at the Taiwan Tech Summit and asked him about tips on securing our personal data on the internet. Phishing emails have long evolved from distant relatives in Kenya contacting you to access $10 million funds together or fake antivirus software renewal. Some of them are easy to spot because they are oftentimes full of typos. But now crooks are getting help.
Before we talk about phishing, look for the grammatic errors.
Nowadays, we have ChatGPT.
ChatGPT can use information you post on your social media account and customize email messages, making them far less suspicious. To be cautious, Lai says people need to pay attention to the sender's email address to see if the domain name is based in other countries or it doesn't match with the sender's identity. In addition, the scam test is recommended to help us stay vigilant against phishing. See if the email seems too good to be true. Contacted out of blue. Asked for personal details, and if money is requested. As to protecting yourself against visiting websites that contain Trojan viruses or malware, Lai says,
If you buy a new computer, right, you can use the Microsoft Defender. That's what's come with it. If there are some malicious software, it may not actually tell you all of them. So I would still recommend to have a something like a McAfee or Norton, something that's not too expensive, but allow you to have additional protection.
Securing your internet connection and storing your many passwords are often very important.
I would say VPN generally is actually a way to protect yourself, because you won't be able to trace. It will allow you to have another layer of protection. I would say one password help you to manage your password.
If you would like to know more about personal cybersecurity, U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has compiled a list of commonly seen internet scams and offers more tips at consumerfinance.gov. We'll take a short break now, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. California is now the first state to call for a constitutional convention on guns. The governor is proposing to amend the U.S. Constitution. A doctor shares with NTD the impacts of sitting too long. He says the impacts could be worse than smoking. A husky from Southern California finally finds a forever home after more than a year. While waiting, the pup makes an unexpected friend. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, David Zhang. California became the first state in America to call for a constitutional convention on guns. This comes after the governor proposed a resolution to amend the U.S. Constitution over gun safety.
The California Assembly on Friday approved Governor Gavin Newsom's proposal to amend the United States Constitution with the right to safety, making California the first state to call for a constitutional convention for gun safety. It would raise the minimum age to buy a gun from 18 to 21, mandate universal background checks, institute a waiting period for all gun purchases, and ban sales of assault weapons and other weapons of war to civilians. But critics argue that law-abiding citizens would feel the brunt of the consequences. In an email statement to NTD, Scott Jackson, owner of Bay Area Firearms, said, "The crimes are being committed by hardened criminals, not law-abiding citizens. It's totally against the Constitution. Yes, you can go get killed at 18, but can't own a firearm? Give me a break." The resolution, called Senate Joint Resolution 7, was introduced to the California legislature in August.
Paid websites are now required to disclose any campaign contributions they make. The new law was proposed as an expansion of the Political Reform Act, which requires the disclosure of campaign contributions and spending.
On September 1st, Governor Gavin Newsom signed into law a bill that would require a disclaimer on the internet and apps paid by spokespersons, social media influencers, or organizations involving candidates in the election process. Some of the websites affected include Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Senate Bill 678, authored by Democratic Senator Tom Umberg, expands the Political Reform Act of 1974 and intends to expand transparency in the electoral process by adding websites, social media platforms, and apps. Umberg told the Epoch Times, quote, "I want to thank Governor Gavin Newsom, the Fair Political Practices Commission, and my legislative colleagues for recognizing the need to embrace campaign transparency with internet content. Californians deserve transparency in our election process in all forms, print, television, and digitally. Any individual paid by committee that posts messages of support or opposition to a candidate must include a disclaimer indicating the affiliation. Umberg says that disclaimers will allow voters engaging with the content to better understand the context and motivation of political endorsements or statements made in opposition. He says the absence of disclosure can mislead voters. No groups were listed in opposition in the legislative analysis, and the measure made its way through the legislature and committees with bipartisan support.
College is about to get more expensive. A major university has approved a multi-year tuition proposal for undergraduate students.
The California State University, or CSU, Board of Trustees on Wednesday approved a 6% tuition hike per year for 5 years. The goal is to stabilize the university's budget. Under the proposal, full-time undergraduate tuition will increase by about $340 per student starting in the 2024 to 25 academic year. It will end in the 2028 to 29 school year. In a statement, the CSU Executive Vice Chancellor and CFO said the revenue from the tuition increase is essential to provide the CSU with the financial stability it needs to continue to serve students today and in the future. Revenue from the increased tuition would go towards increasing funding for the State University Grant Program, student and mental health services, infrastructure, and staff retainment. Tuition has only been increased once by 5% in the past 12 years, while inflation grew by 39%.
Is sitting the new smoking? NTD's Daniel Monahan spoke with a doctor who says Americans are being brought to their knees by metabolic dysfunction and a sedentary lifestyle.
Dr. Mark Sherwood says studies show people are 5 times more likely to die from inactivity, while only 1.4 times more likely to die from smoking, adding that 70% of the U.S. population is overweight or obese according to statistics. Sherwood says health should be the norm, but it's becoming the rarity. According to Sherwood, obesity is the fastest growing non-communicable disease in the history of the world. The former professional baseball player also criticizes people downplaying unhealthy life choices, especially a new trend where he says some people are trying to cast being fit as right-wing.
Being overweight or being overfat creates inflammation, chronic systemic inflammation, and therefore every disease process has as part of it chronic systemic inflammation. So we're talking about increasing unhealthiness, increasing sickness, probably increasing the sick span of life and decreasing the lifespan itself, which none of those are good things.
Sherwood says 8 out of 10 diseases that kill Americans are directly tied to food.
Type 2 diabetes, for example, we do not believe it should exist in one single person. Osteoporosis, we think, can be avoided. Alzheimer's dementia, we think that can pretty much be avoided. Heart disease and cancers, etc., autoimmune conditions. These are the ones that are driven in part, mostly, by our current lifestyle, which is consistent with poor food choices, lack of sleep, high stress, and certainly lack of exercise.
Sherwood is calling on Americans to up their fitness game.
I like to say that the more times you move, the more you can live. The only day you don't find time to exercise is the day you're dead. And the more you move, the more you live. And the less you move, the closer you are to rigor mortis. So the bottom line is, I tell people as a practical tip, for every 20 minutes they sit, just stand up for 2. And you do that through an 8-hour day of work. If you have a sit-down job, you've just done a good amount of squats.
According to Sherwood, we can all strive to be our best selves.
In all aspects, whether it be physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and even financially. Don't let excess weight become something that's acceptable, because it is the propensity to increase disease processes. Work to get that off every day, and hey, you're loved either way.
With 100% of the population predicted to be overweight by 2050, Sherwood says the time to act is right now. Mark Sherwood and his wife have a full-time wellness-based medical practice in Tulsa, Oklahoma called the Functional Medical Institute. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Now let's meet a husky who spent over 400 days hoping for someone to adopt him. During his time in a Southern California animal shelter, the pup received an unexpected but heartwarming surprise as they waited for a forever home.
This is Ace, the Siberian Husky. He first arrived at Sonoma County Animal Services back on May 26, 2022. Emma Dimert, the shelter supervisor, told Newsweek, quote, Ace was brought in as a stray, but had a microchip. The owner decided to surrender him. Ace spent 469 days waiting for a new forever home. People would come to the shelter, but no one wanted to take this lovable husky home. The situation left shelter staff baffled and a little worried. But one day, Ace received a much-needed boost when a young boy visited the shelter. Dimart said, quote, We made baseball cards for some of our dogs at the shelter to promote their availability for adoption, and they included Ace. When a young boy was visiting his grandparents, he collected some of these cards. In the months following, that same boy began exchanging letters and cards with Ace just to say hello. In a video posted to TikTok, Ace can be seen sniffing excitedly at the letters. The husky had made a friend to help pass the time. And after 469 days, someone finally adopted him on September 7th. Ace now has a forever home and even a new husky sibling.
Now let's check in with NTD's Carlos Reyes for our sports roundup.
This is your California Sports Roundup. We have some exciting scores to cover today. I'm Carlos Reyes. NBA superstar and current Los Angeles Laker LeBron James was in the Saudi capital of Riyadh earlier this month as he helped coach young Saudi players at a basketball clinic in the city. For the few fortunate youth able to attend the clinic, it was a dream come true.
Really amazing, like it's something straight out of a dream, you know, like especially raising up as a kid, you just watch him on TV and on your phone, and just to see him in real life do his thing, it's amazing.
The NBA great jokingly posted a GIF on his X account indicating he'd very quickly accept a big money move to Saudi Arabia when numerous astronomical soccer deals were being rumored, including a reported failed $776 million per season bid to pry French superstar Kylian Mbappe to the Saudi Pro League. Given Saudi Arabia's recent flush of money into the sports market, who knows? Maybe the king will be lured away from the NBA in order to broaden his horizons under a lucrative deal in the near future. LeBron broke the all-time NBA scoring record earlier this year as conversations continue to assess him as one of the sport's greatest of all time. He has 2 seasons left on his current deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron has won titles with the Cleveland Cavaliers, Miami Heat, and his current team, the Los Angeles Lakers. That is it for today's sports. Thank you for watching. I'm Carlos Reyes.
Thanks, Carlos. That's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Ganjin World, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.